Time manipulation in Unity is easy. So I'm making a time travel based game which involves a hell lot of playing around with time. I can move forward in time, backward in time, I can stop time, I can rewind, fast forward, slow down, bend time, create multiple timelines and more. So there is a lot of playing around with time manipulation, but today we'll mainly focus on time rewind mechanics. Time rewind in Unity sounds very simple, but it is a lot more complex than it sounds. The basic setup for time rewind is to save each state of the object and rewind it when required. Now saving each state in each frame is very intense task on the memory and CPU. So consider I am saving a position of an object, let's say vector 2, in each frame, and if my game is running at 60 FPS, then in 1 minute I have to save 3600 states. So consider a list or array of 3600 items, and there will be multiple objects all saving states all at once. So it is very heavy on CPU and on memory. One of the best games to implement this mechanics is Braid. It is a classic legendary game created by Jonathan Blow. So in Braid, not only it saves all the states, but it saves from the start. Means it saves everything since the level starts. So as Jonathan stated, time rewind is not a resource in Braid. That is achieved by highly compressing the data and reducing the states by only saving the differences in the states. I will try to explain it soon. Luckily, in my game, I only need to save 2-3 minutes of states. So I don't have to infinitely save everything. But 2-3 minutes is also a big problem. And also time manipulation in my game is very different from Braid because my player is actually independent of time. So with every interaction the player creates a new timeline. So rewinding and just coming back to the normal time creates a new branch of timelines. It's a hell lot complex, and if I tell you more it will be a spoiler. So let's continue. Now let's create something. I have two types of objects in my game. One of that is not very much dependent upon physics, like the enemies, doors, triggers. They have a predefined behavior which makes it a bit easy, and there are other types of objects which are heavily physics based, like falling blocks or moving blocks, etc. So I cannot predict the behavior, they behave as per the physics influence. So let's start with the simple object first. I have a class which is the data class that is going to be stored, and it contains a lot of data like position, scale, animation state, other important variables. For now, let's keep it simple. It contains position, rotation and a time value. The time value stores the time when that state was saved. Now this is a general class. Now my simple object, let's say enemy, will have a list of that class. So whenever my state changes, let's say when my enemy moves from idle to walking state, it will save that state. Whenever its behavior changes, it saves the state. So no need to save all the states, just the difference is saved. Like I mentioned above in Braid, which only saves the difference in the enemy in the object state, which saves a lot of overhead. I have a very basic enemy which is patrolling left to right, and when the enemy sees the player, it starts following and shooting the player. Now it saves all the changes in the list as you can see, and now when I rewind it, it just goes back in time. So when I rewind, I'm just reversing the action, and as I have the time when that state was changed, I'm just changing them back in reverse order. So let's say at time t is equals to 10 seconds, my enemy changed from idle to run, and at t is equals to 15, it stopped and returned to idle. So now when I rewind it, the code will send it to run state after t is less than 15 seconds, and as t becomes less than 10, it will send it back to idle state. So it's just simply doing the same action in the reverse order. It's a bit complex at first to understand, but if you play around with the code, it will be more simplified. Now for the physics based objects, suppose if I have a block which is falling or the player is pushing it down, then the state changes every frame. So saving the difference is as same as saving all the frames. And I want the smooth physics, so I can't skip any frames in between. So in this case, I have to save all the states. Now there are two ways to do it. If my object remains for less time under the influence of physics, then I can do one thing. Pushing the block down, the block enters a falling state and the state is just for maybe 10 or 20 seconds max. So on the other state, the idle states are almost similar as the previous objects. So not much is changing during that phases. So when my object enters a dynamic state like falling under the influence of gravity or colliding or maybe accelerating, then only I will record all the states in a separate array and it will be for a shorter duration, so I would face no problem handling it. Second way, if my object is under gravity or under any physics environment for longer time, or for any reason if I need to record for longer time, if I need to record everything like Braid, each and every frame, then I can use a file system or XML or any other file system and I can create a batch of highly compressed data and save it. Saving it separately reduce the overhead of RAM and I can get the batches one by one and read. It is very complex process to explain. This was a very basic version of Time Rewind. I have a more complex version in my game, and if you are interested then do let me know in the comments. I will make a more detailed video very soon. And please consider subscribing and follow me on Discord. I will post more game dev related stuff, and also my game is really interesting. Follow to witness the journey, and thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.